our country. Welcome back and wake up, America. Your country desperately needs you. It is the duty of every patriot to protect his or her country from government corruption. Run for office. Eliminate the Federal Reserve. Support David Macko in Ohio's 14th Congressional District. You know, why stand we here idle? The second American Revolution has already begun. And I just want to remind you of a quote from Judge Learned Hand. Judge Hand says, "Liberty lies in the hearts of men and women. When it dies there, no constitution, no law, no court can save it. In fact, no constitution, no law, no court can even do much to help it." So when I sit here lighting the fires of liberty, the fires of liberty have to burn passionately in your heart. You and I together have the opportunity and responsibility to save this country. And if we don't do it, then liberty dies around the world. Dan,
I'll make this quick, Mike. So Dan from Texas, from my home state, can get on the phone. Just a few, little, call it crazy comments, whatever. But again, it's these families. This is the heart of our clotted up, and again, it's kind of funny. That's a good way to put it, because they are just nothing but they're in a sewer line. People that that are out there and are listening, they get so programmed with the stuff, and they get this fear on television. These shows that come out, and they excite people and things, but they give you these mental images in your head how things are going to look in corporate. I mean, these sci-fi movies, and then you got this Law and Order where people watch this stuff and they look and they actually think that there's a constitution in our courts. It's these little things that people just get plugged. Even a commercial. You have commercials on TV. Don't forget, driving's a privilege, and if you don't have insurance, I mean, insane things, and people walk around. And I've had conversations with people, about drivers. You don't need to have this. Oh, well, that's privilege. And you want to just rattle their heads and say, where do you get this stuff from? Do you do anything else besides watch television? But I'm going off.
I know. Well, that's the passion. That's the fury that we need to do. We need to channel that energy, and hopefully people will channel that energy in part to the phone call. There's a conference call tonight to end the Fed, meaning the Federal Reserve. The phone number is 605-475-6006. 605-475-6006. The PIN number is 281430, and that's at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time, 8 Central, 9 Eastern. And join your fellow patriots. Get together and eliminate this Federal Reserve. David, how important is it for people to work together?
Well, it's very important. That's why the enemy spends so much time trying to divide us. Constitution Party members from Libertarian Party members. Libertarian Party members who might have one perspective from Libertarian Party members who have another. Blacks from whites, Jews from Christians, atheists from believers, heterosexuals from homosexuals. The enemy is the government. As soon as we all focus on that, their game's over.
Absolutely, and that's the point of this program. Liberty is for everybody. I'm here to defend everybody's individual rights, regardless of your gender, your color, your religion preference. Everybody who is alive has a right to be alive. I'm going to Dan in Texas. Good morning, Dan. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Mr. Badnarik. My point that I wanted to make is, people marvel at the high prices, and I've been trying to explain to people that the high prices are only a symptom. The real problem is the inflation. And I try to tell them that inflation is, in fact, a glut of money. And, I try to tell them that we're going down the same road. The Continental Congress printed currency like mad during the Revolutionary War. The Confederacy did it during the last 2 years of the Civil War. The Weimar Republic of Germany did it. And now we're doing it. And people look at me, and I pull out the bills, and I show them. It's right there in the serial numbers if you're willing to look.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how do we stop it? How do we convince our fellow citizens that, if printing money out of thin air is a bad thing?
Well, I'm sorry.
We need to keep telling the truth over and over and over again. One thing I've noticed, the enemy always wants you to soft-pedal the truth. Oh, don't talk about the Fed. That's too complicated. Well, that was even said by some libertarians that I know. And then Ron Paul came along. He explained the Fed clearly to people so that at the University of Michigan, I believe it was, members of his audience took out $1 Federal Reserve notes and set them on fire. So,
Wow.
It's not... we tend to look at the American people as a whole and say they're not too bright, but they can be wakened up, especially now when they see their economy collapsing around them. So we shouldn't underestimate them. Keep proclaiming the truth. The enemy hates the truth. That's why That's why the enemy tries to suppress us, keep us off the establishment media, TV, and newspapers. That's why the enemy tries to marginalize us. God said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." That's true. The Liberty Bell says, "Proclaim liberty throughout the land to all the inhabitants." We've got to keep doing what we're doing, and so more and more people wake up.
I was watching a little bit of the news, maybe 5-10 minutes, and the clip that I saw showed John McCain apparently talking after the vote on the bailout, and John McCain said,
"Hello."
Hello.
Oh yes, I was wondering if I could interject something. I'll let you finish. I was just.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dan.
Oh no, it's the serial number thing. I mean, when you start looking at the serial numbers and you do the math, the current pool of serial numbers and all the denominations from the $5 bill on up comes to 172.8 billion serial numbers that can be printed without repetition. And it sounds like a lot, but you have to multiply by all the various denominations and then add that total up. And I did, and by my calculations, that's $32 trillion that could be printed without repetition. And I told people that, and all of a sudden their eyes bug out like a steer in a slaughterhouse.
Well, most people have no idea what $1 trillion is.
Well, it's a million.
Well, yeah, that just gives it a little bit more iambic pentameter. It's like, most people don't know what a million is.
Well,
I'm very serious. I was teaching some young girls about the solar system. They pointed out Jupiter in the sky and said, "That's not a star, that's a planet." And so then I asked them how many planets there were, and they were dumbfounded. So we spent 45 minutes memorizing the planets in order, and then I made the statement that the sun is 93.5 million miles. The Earth is 93.5 million miles away from the sun. And they went, okay. Well, that was not the reaction that I wanted. And so the following weekend, I brought a bag of rice, and we were going to count it. We made a pile of 1, a pile of 10, all the way out. Well, we made a pile of 100,000, which is like 8.5 pounds of rice. And I pointed out to them that a million would be 10 times that. It'd be 85 pounds of rice, which is more than, one of the girls weighed. And then I pointed out that in order to do that, we had to have a truckload, 93 bags of rice in order to get this 93 million. And every grain of rice would be a mile.
1 mile, yeah.
And they went, wow. I mean, now I was getting the reaction that I wanted. I did the same thing for $5 trillion. That back when the national debt was $5 trillion. And it's a stack of money, 310,000 miles into the sky. The moon is only 240,000 miles away. So
right, there and halfway back.
Yeah, it'd be a stack of money out beyond the moon. And if we convert them to $100 bills, I think it was 3,150 miles, and so this would be a stack of money sideways. I mean, with but not
coast to coast,
not end to end. I mean, we're talking the thickness of the money. It'd be from San Francisco to Washington D.C. and most of the way to Atlanta. And each person's fair share would be approximately, I think it calculated as $20,000, and the increase was $1,000 a year. I don't know what the $700 billion. I mean, how much is that per person?
That's a ridiculous amount. But our enemy are not the only people that draw inspiration from the media. I'll get off the air with a quote, if I may.
Okay.
Well, quoting from one of my favorite movies about one of my favorite historical figures, there is one thing that those of you listening to the sound of my voice will be able to say when the dust is settled and we've reclaimed our home, and you may thank God for it. 30 years from now, when you're sitting by the fire with your grandchildren on your knee, and he asks, what did you do in the great battle to restore our constitutional republic? You won't have to say, well, I shoveled beep in Louisiana. George S. Patton.
I started to recognize that quote towards the end.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd clean it for radio.
I appreciate that.
I don't know if you have a delay or not, but thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you, Dan, for calling in. And that's basically what it amounts to. The movie Patton, I think that was kind of a euphemism. But, David, we are literally are fighting for our Constitution and for the form of life that we've grown used to here in the United States, are we not?
Of course we are. You hear over the years that this is the election, this is the crisis, but it certainly looks like the biggest crisis I've seen at least since 40 years.
And this has all been planned over the course of time.
Well, one of the few honest statements that the great war criminal and enemy of the human race, Franklin Roosevelt, ever made was that in politics, nothing happens by accident. Everything is planned.
Yes, that is very true. And he was an enemy of our country. He is in my opinion, he is the worst president, although, George Bush is certainly, climbing in stature.
Well, fortunately, the 22nd Amendment will probably keep Bush from exceeding Roosevelt as the worst president. But Bush is really trying.
Yeah,
there's a lady in Vermont who's running for Attorney General. She says that if she is elected, she will prosecute Bush for murder, and she will have Vincent Bugliosi, the prosecutor of the Manson gang, who's written a book calling on Bush to be tried for murder, as her prosecutor there. That might be interesting to see.
That would be very interesting to see. I mean, I would buy popcorn to watch.
I would too.
So
A few more positive solutions. I did want to mention energy. I don't know how many of your listeners are familiar with him, but everyone should go to your computer and look up Lindsey Williams and the energy non-crisis. He was the chaplain of the Alaska pipeline, and he was present at the discovery of a pool of oil, which would give the United States all of its energy needs for over 200 years. The energy non-crisis, the energy non-crisis is what it should be called. What the establishment media calls the energy crisis is another lie, just like practically everything else we put up with. If I were to be elected, I would propose a bill to end all taxes on the discovery, production, development, and transmission of all forms of energy, whether coal, oil, or nuclear, or the ones that don't work, the wind power and the solar power. If you want more of something, you don't tax it. If you want less of something, you tax it. I would also favor at least a moratorium on the gasoline tax, as Ron Paul has suggested, until it goes under $2.50 a gallon. What these people are doing, the people who oppose energy development, that amounts to treason. You're making war on the American people by not allowing us to develop our energy sources.